Welcome to the Wisdom of 21 Winning Women and Their Lessons. My name is Reverend Joy Dore, and I'll be your host today. The purpose of this summit is to empower, to inspire, educate women by showcasing the diverse experiences and wisdom of 21 accomplished women who have achieved success in their respective fields. The summit aims to create a platform for collaboration, learning, and networking, fostering a supportive community for women striving for excellence. Lastly, help women embrace their winning moments, regardless of how small or big, towards a successful and fulfilling life. And this time we are looking to empower, excel, embrace, and elevate. But we have in this studio today, Dr. Kristy Taylor, certified professional career and ICF-accredited executive coach, leveraged 20 plus years of expertise in health science and higher education, founder of WORxK Solutions and Career Coach, specializing in stress prevention. There's just so much to talk about my coach in the house today, but there's no better person to actually, tell us who she is, how she earned all that she have done or how she learned it, rather than, Kristy in the house. I was reading your interview you had the last week with the lady, and I was like, you're so much, into helping women, build their mindset the right way, that there's no better person to have on this year's summit, and, speaking to women from the wisdom side of life, which is, how did we get wisdom? It's through experience.
Right.
Than you today. So just let our audience know who we have in the house, actually the powerhouse that we have in the house.
So thank you so much. I mean, it really is a pleasure to be here. As you mentioned, 20 plus years of experience in higher education. I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to really share my story. And, one part of the conversation that we have had, Joy, is, feeling like as women, we can't share our stories because of that burden of shame that comes with it. But when you start to share it, then you realize that there are other people who are just like you in the same situations. And I think it's like there's 7 billion people on this earth, right? And even though God made us uniquely different, the situations that we often encounter in life are often the same. And the thing about it is we go through it in a silo. And so we often feel that burden of carrying that themselves. But when you hear the story of other people, of how they came through, how they made it over, it can serve as an inspiration to you. So when I talk about this work that I do, my life has been committed to always educating and empowering other people. I started, my career being in the military. I will end in the military, but I've always, from active duty to being a reservist now. And my full-time role is working in education and training, whether that was teaching. I've always taught in some capacity. And working in higher education leadership. And just to tell you, I'll just throw in a quick story here before I get into the nuts and bolts of, just to tell you how you can't tell God what you gonna do, right? When they say you make your plans, he make his, and he laughs. I was telling somebody the other day, I remember saying I would never go back into teaching. I would never do it. And we'll get to that piece, right? I said, okay, I've left education. I'm not going back. And just so happens that last year, right, here I was, preparing for a deployment, and I was looking for a job. I worked a job. I was telling myself I'm going to work this job that I didn't necessarily love, but I ended up leaving that position right before I left for a deployment, and I needed to find work. So although all of these years I said, okay, I'm not going to go back into teaching, the first thing that came to mind was you can substitute teach. And so I started to do these interviews for these roles for substitute teaching. And I get to this one interview, and the guy is interviewing me to come work at the school. And he interviews me, and I'm like, hey, you realize that I'm only here to substitute, right? He was like, oh my God, I thought you were, interviewing for a full-time elementary role, right? And so he said, okay, how about this? I said, no, I'm just looking for some work between now and the time that I'm deploying, just to kind of keep myself busy. He's like, how about this? Why don't you come in and work a couple of days? So I went there on a Wednesday. And he said, I need somebody until I find a teacher. I went there on a Wednesday, worked Wednesday, and then he was like, can you come back tomorrow and Friday? I said, sure. By that Friday, he handed me keys to the building. He said, we want you to stay with us until you leave in February, till you go on your deployment. Now, here's the thing. The first day I went, the students, I introduced myself as Miss Taylor, because this was a small private school. All of the kids, K-5, are in the same room, like a schoolhouse. I introduced myself as Miss Taylor. And they say, you're not Miss Taylor. I said, yes, I am. I'm Miss Kristy Taylor. You can call me Miss Taylor. And I was like, no, you're not Miss Taylor. And I was like, what are these children talking about? Lo and behold, the teacher who had left, her name was Miss Taylor, right? She left, she had transited, her name was Miss Taylor. And the crazy thing was, and I always think like sometimes God will bring you to a place. He literally set me up in this position, literally brought me to a school where the teacher who left was Miss Taylor. And that just reminds me of, what this topic we're talking about today in terms of being open-minded to where God will position you, being open-minded to those challenges that come along in life. So in this work that I've been doing for 20 years, I've had my share of career ups and downs, but I want to start with the personal side, right? And the things that we talked about and what made me have this transition. In 2016, I launched my business, and I was known as the healthcare career coach, always helping people because I understood as a healthcare professional and an educator that we get burnt out. And I had a very good job, but I was getting burnt out. So it's the things that I was teaching and espousing, I necessarily wasn't living it. And I just kept working through challenges and going through with a smile on my face. And if you looked at me on the outside, you wouldn't have never known anything was wrong in some of the challenges that I've dealt with. And some of that includes some of the things that we've talked about, right? Trying to climb the career ladder, trying to, figure out in your 30s, how are you, I wanted all those things like motherhood, marriage, all of those things that I had, was taught that this is what shapes your life growing up. And my best friend always tells me, she said, you continue to pray, God will bless you with this, because here I am 40 now, God will bless you with those things. It just may not look the way that you thought it would look, right? But God will bless you. He will honor your prayers. And so by the time I remember at 30 thinking, man, I have made it. I had this career, things are going, things are moving. And then I lost the marriage didn't go through. My fiance and I broke up. I lost our children. And I think from 30 to 37, I literally was just, it was almost like, remember this show, the Twilight Zone? I was just walking in that Twilight Zone from 30 to 37, trying to build a career that was not working out because one, it was not, and it wasn't that it wasn't working out. It really just wasn't what God, I never really asked what God wanted for me. It was just, well, I want this. I want this. At 30, I was supposed to be married and I was supposed to have kids, and that didn't work. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to shift to my career, and I wanted this. It had to be this way, but it just was not working out that way, right? And then at 37, I literally just collapsed. I found myself sitting in front of a therapist. And I remember the last straw came. I packed my bags up. I'm like, in 4 days, I packed the bags up. I'm like, I'm selling this house. I'm moving. I'm done. Packed those bags up. I moved back home with my mom. And when I got there, my mom I just could not quit crying. I could not quit crying. And my mom was like, what's wrong with you? And so I was like, I'm going to go get therapy, because I just don't know. You know what I mean? I know a lot had happened and I had went through smiling, but I think that so many times us as women, we are taught that you have to just press on. You got to be strong. You have to, you can't look weak, especially in communities of color, where the truth is sometimes we just need a break. Sometimes we just need to acknowledge like, hey, this did not go according to plan, or it didn't work out. But at that point in time, I was feeling at my lowest of low, especially because of the fact, here I am, I'm Dr. Taylor. It's supposed to be this way for me. I'm an example to many. I can't afford to fall apart. So all of those years, so when I went to this therapist, we're talking and I'm sharing, here's some of the things that I've been doing and how I struggle with the fact, okay, that picture that I thought for my life that I was supposed to have, the marriage didn't work. The children didn't come when I thought they would come, right? The career, I watched it burn down. but really, when I think about it, I make twice as much money as I used to make 3 years ago. So it really, in my mind right there, it really wasn't, in that moment, it was burning down, right? But then, when I look back, God was just building me up to what he was bringing me to. But I just could not fathom the idea that would not be the story that I had created in my mind, but it was the story that he was creating that happens to be unfolding now. And I think around the 4th or 5th session, I was done with therapy because she said, Kristy, let me tell you something. You had a nervous breakdown, and the facade that you presented so that everybody could continue to think that you're strong, all those things that you went through with your job, all those things that you went through with your fertility issues, all those things, you just kept smiling and pushing through. And so when I look at my business in the current state of what I'm doing, you hear me talk about mindset transformation, because I promised myself at 37 that in this one life that God has given us, I will never allow myself to be in that space again where I don't acknowledge my emotions, I don't acknowledge my challenges, that I have to walk around like it's all perfect, that I don't get help when I need it. And now what I do is I take that passion for ensuring that the things that I am preaching and teaching, and I say preach, I'm not a pastor, but I mean espousing these workshops, the working and the coaching that I'm doing with clients, I take it as a real passion because I've been there, done that. And not every client who comes to me is going to know that story, but I do know what it's like to watch it all fall apart, to build, to have to rebuild. And I'm still in the process of rebuilding. But one commitment that I have made is I will never allow myself to sink into that space again where I feel like I have to continuously go on. And so when I'm working with clients and I'm talking about this whole mindset transformation in this career, I'm very passionate about that, right? Because we are taught, and we talked about this, Joy, we are taught that sometimes our career as women, it's defining us. But we hear the strong Black woman, the strong woman, and the idea of alpha female. But that is just a portion of what makes up so many of us, right? We have personalities, we have families, we have people that love us. For those of us who have children, all of those things come into play. And, that career aspect is just one dimensional. It's just a moment in your life. It takes up a lot of time, but it's just a moment in your life. So when I'm coaching clients, I believe in holistic coaching. That's why I incorporate mindset coaching. That's why I talk about overcoming self-limiting beliefs, because I understand what it's like to feel like, okay, well, for me, it was a transition to my career is the primary focus because I didn't get this what I want over here. But then when it all fell apart, I didn't know what to do with myself. And so that is where you hear that passion and intent come from. And when we talk about wisdom, the experience of, as a woman, we as women have to know that life is going to life, right? And there are people who can share. You can share your story. Don't be afraid to share. It might take you some time. Like, I don't just meet everybody and say that hey, I went through this, or these are my challenges with fertility. These are my challenges, right? It has to be something that's God-led. Like me talking, I done a lot of podcasts at this point, a lot of events, but there are moments and environments where I talk about this stuff because I know that the women who are listening, it will resonate with them. So I'm not going to just pop up and talk about it, but God will give you that place and space to share your experience and to share your evolution. And so you just never know, the story, the challenge that you are going through right now will literally become the story that you share to inspire somebody else.
That is the Dr. Taylor in the house. What can I do? What can I say? Oh my God, audience, did you guys hear all that? That was just a download. I call it a download of, her life journey. And believe me, even as we arranging this summit, we're doing it for you right here who is watching us right now, who is asking what next. That's how I see it. I remember, as Doctor said, for like almost 7 years, she was, she thought, all her plans she had around her life came crashing, but not even knowing God was taking her from where she thinks she's comfortable at to where she's supposed to be. And she has been such a blessing. Like even having her on this summit is like, oh my God. And the wisdom she's, giving out there is just so powerful that there's no better time in her life to give from the inside out. This is me talking to you guys and telling you that I was there and I want to help you not to be there long. That's what this summit is doing. I don't want you to run my 7 years because, hey, for the fact the marriage didn't work out, for the fact the family you planning didn't work out, for the fact the relationship didn't work out, that does not define who you are. There's so much when you have, you haven't, or you had that you can concentrate on today and make a better decision of doing what, just renewing your mind, I call it. We talk about mindset. And when I hear the word of God, I hear renew your mind. Anyway, but that is going to bring me to the first question I have for you today in the house, right? And it says, as a certified professional career and executive coach, what motivated you to pursue this career path, and how has your journey shaped your approach to coaching professionals in their careers and leadership roles?
Well, right now my business is in transition, and I go back to really finding what is your root, right? Because when I started this in 2016, first of all, let me say this: I have wanted to be a career coach since I was 19 years old. I think that I have had every name for a career coaching business. I'm just now getting to the financial point, right, where I can sustain this and I can deal with the ups and downs of business and building. Because my first website was Career-ish. I was 19 years old, had that 20 years ago. I just have always had a passion for helping people. And here's the thing: I don't say that I'm a life coach per se. I start with I'm a career coach, because what happens is when people are life coaches, and this is probably something happens to you as a pastor too, when people in general, when you're a life coach, people will come to you with the wide, right, with the big story, and then you have to narrow it down. Typically with me as a career coach, people will come to me with it's a narrow route to me, because you're coming to me typically for something related to your career. I have a passion because I have a background in education, but I just have a passion for helping people to see where they're going, and given my own career challenges and experiences, I want to mentor people in that space. The evolution of this business is I am shifting from being a healthcare career coach to once I launched CareerCoachRx earlier this year, I was coaching everybody, right? Just whoever came my way. But the passion is to shift it back to what I call social impact, meaning that healthcare, education, social services, and religious organizations, reaching people in those arenas, the nonprofit sector, because that's kind of how I started. But in the years past, it was only healthcare, but now I'm expanding, but I'm still redoing who my target audience is. When people come to you as a career coach, it generally is a narrow path. Like, I want resume writing, I want this, I want a LinkedIn update. So what I do from a life coaching perspective, I start to ask those questions, right? Why were you unhappy with your job, or what happened with your last job? I just start to ask questions that opens up a can of worms, where you came to me with a narrow scope, but now it widens up. So it's the reverse of general life coaching, right? Because you came to me with this narrow scope, but I'm asking you these questions because if you're in your career, something that takes up most of your time, most of your hours in a day, it's important that you're passionate about what you do. Or for some people, if you're not necessarily so I want to say this, because when we talk about careers, we're always under the impression that people go to college. Some people, they just want a good job. And it's not about, I went to college, or when I'm working with clients, it's about prioritizing what's important to you. So if family is important and it's about, I just want a job where I'm happy and I'm making good money, this is not a defining thing in my life, then that's what we work on, right? But we have to identify what are the goals and values of that client's goals and values. So I'm also working with the client to, when you come to me and say, I'm not happy with my job, or I'm stressed out, and we look at those work-life balance factors, right? The things that are going on at the job, and also with your family life or your personal life. That's what we call holistic career coaching, because I'm asking those questions because one, if you're at work, if you're at work and this thing is taking up 8 hours of your day, factors outside of work, external factors like your personal life can impact you on the job, right? But if you're at the job all day and you're unhappy with the job, that resonates when you go home, and that 3 or 4 hours you have to be with your kids before you put them in the bed, or you're dealing with your family life, that has an impact. So when it comes to career coaching, yes, the scope is different from life coaching. It's reversed, but the principles are still the same. It's to help people to overcome those self-limiting beliefs that might be keeping them from achieving their career and personal goals. But I'm also focused on the career branding piece that's going to help them to get to that next level. And sometimes that includes, like I say, mindset. Well, all of everything I do includes mindset coaching, but also interview prep and those just tangible things that you need to get the job. But that approach is really holistic, because it's career branding, it's mindset coaching, and it's combining them together just to make sure that people have a holistic life. And that when somebody asks you, Joy, what do you do? Or tell me about Joy. You don't want the first thing to do. You might say, I'm Reverend Joy, right? But you have a family, you have things that you're doing, and that's what makes you, all the pieces. When, like I said in one of my podcasts where I was talking to another career coach, nobody's gonna put your resume on your obituary, right? You see what I mean? And so we got to live life holistically. And we have to recognize when we have challenges so that we can work through them, so we can progress in our career and personal life. So that's where that passion comes from.
Wow. Wow. Oh my God. Nobody's going to put your resume in your...
It's not going to be on your obituary or tombstone, right?
It's not going to be on your
legacy
no.
is and that's a question too. As I used to give that exercise to my students, that for some people it's hard because they're like, I don't want to think about death, but we're passing through this life, we're passing through. But I'm still say, write your obituary, right? Write your obituary today. And what do you want people to remember me by? Nobody's going to be like, oh, they might say, well, she was Dr. Taylor, but the other piece of it was she was always willing to help people, support people. She was always a champion for other women. Everybody felt like when they was around her that they had a seat at the table. Those are the attributes that you want. And if I adopt children, or however God gives me children, if I'm a stepmom, if I have them on my own, but she was a great mom to the children that God sent her to raise, right? Those are the attributes that people are going to remember about you. And that's what makes me a little bit different as a career coach versus somebody who's just writing a resume, somebody who's just helping you for a job interview.
Wow, that is really, now I see why, that interview you had last weekend really, blessed me, because I see where you're coming from, just, that renewing of your mind. I'm using the word I'm used to, as Reverend Joy, that mindset, because really writing a resume is something for work, but you're trying to, balance them first, like just open up everything. Let's look at it. Where will you be happy? What makes you happy? This job you're looking for, or why are you leaving the old one? So now your coaching is as you said, which is what it is, holistic, meaning is like, to me, is original. It's like natural. It's like trying to balance them so that they won't be losing anything, living in the now, being ever present here. Whether they are home or at work, everything is balanced because they're happy. And I love that. I love that. I really want to thank you, and thank the audience too, who are watching us today and who are following. And we just want to let you know that this is for you. This is for that woman who is not just celebrating everything right now, because everything matters. And I like how you tied the obituary into this. Seriously, many of us are not even thinking about that. Many of us are not seeing it as something we should include in our mind when we are pursuing career or when we are looking for job. And that is a big aha for me. Thank you for saying that. And, before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you another question, for the audience watching are like, okay, I want to know something like this, right? The coaching industry has evolved over the years. How do you stay updated with the latest coaching methodologies and industry trends? And how does this continuous learning benefit your clients? There's a reason why I framed that question for you. Knowing that you're a career lady and somebody who have been in the educational system a while, I thought I deemed fit that you are going to be that one who's going to bring out like what my daughter want to hear about how do I live in the now in this industry. Because you've searched, you've studied, you know the mistake people are making as coaches, as you just said, and you know what is right to do going forward to help this generation that we are living in. How will you just, elaborate it to help somebody watching you right now who want to say, okay, it's a new age and I want to live in the now in this industry?
Well, when I was in my 20s and I was living in Texas, my pastor, he was dying of cancer, right? Mm. And the last time that I saw him, we were at Bible study. And that is just something that has stuck with me. He said that even though my outer man is declining, I must constantly renew my mind. He continued to study and learn even to the day of his passing, right? This experience, we're passing through. But God has blessed us with spirit to have and curiosity to constantly renew our mind. So as a coach, I'm always taking classes. I'm always reading. And this is whether you're a coach, whether you're a preacher, whether you have no money or a lot of money, the internet is accessible. Look at the resources that you have around you and start where you are. We can make a lot of excuses. And I recognize that I'm speaking from a first world perspective, right? At minimum, most of us have a cell phone with some basic internet. We have a library. Look at what you have around you and continue to try to build. If you want to coach people, use sites like Udemy. Look for affordable, accessible coaching training. Read books, read articles. There's an abundance of information available on YouTube. I like to call YouTube University, right? So when we're talking about mindset, whether it's a coach or it's your career, it's a job where you need to pick up a new skill, whatever it is, find resources within the realm that you can afford or that are accessible to you and take advantage of those resources. Right now, I'm working on revising the free gift that I typically give when I speak to at events like this, because one of the things that I want to make sure that people walk away with is a career planning roadmap and something to make you really think about what's going to get you to that next level. So that was a great question that you asked. So think in your mind about a roadmap for where you want to go and what you want to do, right? And so even if you don't have this physical piece of paper that I'm talking about for planning, think about what you want to do and where you want to go next. And when you think about that, you just write it down and look at the resources that you have around you. Who can you connect with? What people who are already doing this? Can you ask them for a little bit of their time to just mentor you? And if they are not available to mentor you, join Facebook groups, look up stuff on TikTok. I mean, all of this social media. I see kids out here dancing and tapping and trying to go famous on social media. But there are things for people in our age group too, where it's like, okay, you can use these things as a resource to help you become better and stronger. I know one commitment that I made this year is I'm going to get to that next level in my own coaching and my own level of executive presence, right? For where God is going to send me into the future. I hired a coach, but in the past, I wasn't able to do that, right? I'm a coach who hired a coach. I'm a coach who talks to people like you, like building my network, right? Taking part in things and having a voice, all of those. So if you're trying to get to your next level, when we talk about renewing of the mind, don't be afraid to take that next step. I mean, you saw this on my Facebook page, Joy, where I said in November, I'm going to start speaking more. And I had it in my mind that I'm going to start a podcast in 2024. Well, I applied to be a part of an event, and the niece, the lady who was hosting the event, I just posted in a group and said, hey, I want to do an interview because I wasn't even thinking about the podcast. I want to interview somebody just to talk, right, about this event I'm going to be in. And the lady who was hosting it, she was like, why don't you just let me do the event, interview me because I'm hosting the event. And we did that very first interview, and she was a TEDx speaker. she's been on a TEDx platform. And I told her that day, she stayed after we did that little live, that initial Facebook live, and she gave me some pointers on the lighting, and she was just mentoring me. And then since then, I was looking at my feed yesterday. I've done 10 podcast episodes. I've done 9 events. Accidentally, all you have to do is put out there. If God puts something in your head that and it keeps popping up over and over, that's a sign. I will say typically universe in general, right? But we know when I'm speaking, I'm talking about God. That's a sign that he has put something in your mind. And so that was him taking the first step. You take the first step. He planted the seed. You take the first step by accessing what you can, continue to be in prayer about clarity, accessing what you can to educate yourself. And then he going to open doors for you to move to that next step. I'm a living witness. I literally went from sleeping on my mama's couch in 2020, trying to figure my out way through to living in a high-rise apartment outside of DC, right? Would have doubled my salary. In 3 years, God has done that for me. He's brought my business back. I actually now I have a coach and I hired a consulting firm. Not because I'm making amazing money doing the business. It's just because I'm stepping out on faith, right? To go to the next level where God, he did that for me in 2020. I'm telling you, I thought the world had come to an end. When I packed that house up in December of 2019, and I packed my house up in 4 days and couldn't tell nobody what was going on with my life. Only my mama and sister knew. And I just showed back up in Mississippi at my grandmama's house. Nobody knew the story, right? I did not tell them the story until I got another job and got ready to resign from the current job that I had. But in 3 years, God has done that for me. And it speaks for itself what faith can do and what a renewing of the mind can do, and being open to what he has for you, and continuous improvement, continuous commitment to being better every day. That's really the best advice I could give.
Let me tell you something. I'm glad we're doing this for the summit. I felt like jumping up, like preach, woman of God.
Yeah, he is truly a God of restoration, right? And
I feel like
I mean, the biggest advice I always give people is that we are worried about, you see me posted on my Facebook page. We argue over plates, but when God is trying to give us a buffet, you worried about a plate. Well, what's she doing? And they got more, then they doing this. And if you just move yourself out the way, God got a whole buffet for you. He has a whole buffet.
Let me I don't know if I've felt like this a while, but I'm going to tell you something, Doc. I am so happy that you're one of these experts on this summit. You just brought so much anointing. I will not go out of my realm. I'm a woman that walk in the spirit. The Lord has been so good for all these years. And trust me, today I feel like I was in the presence of someone who God have anointed and set apart to deliver. And, praying this morning, I was like, God, I just wanted your glory in the realm of these interviews today. And trust me, it's been, when I heard your voice today, I was like, your voice sound like you've been praying. And I know I had a few minutes the other day with you, but it's not the same voice today. And I said, okay, Holy Ghost, just take over. But I want to tell you, audience watching us, we are, coming to the end of this. And I can be here like the whole entire day today listening to you, Dr. Taylor. And it's been a blessing having you ladies just, pour out your heart, because you just give so much what I call mastermind right here, right now, that you give something that money cannot buy. I'm serious. Money cannot buy every wisdom that just drop like from you to us to just move our life to the next level. So you are watching us today. You are wondering what next? What next is what I'm going to ask Doc right now. How will people who want to do exactly what you do or doing find you to connect with you? And also tell them a little about, I know you mentioned a little about your free gift, but just now tell them more about it.
I got to step off camera for a minute. So there's a couple things, right, Joy? First of all, if you want to find me, I'm mostly known online. You can Google Dr. Kristy Taylor, career coach. You can find me at all of the social media is at CareerCoachRx. CareerCoachRx. We have about 4,200 followers on TikTok. That's been a blessing within itself. We have the CareerCoachRx podcast. The website is WORxK Solutions, but you can type in CareerCoachRx.com because that's the easiest way for people to find me. If you do WORxK Solutions, it's WORxK Solutions.com. There are 2 books that I have written. One is the Prayer Work. So if you see this, and the Career Mindset Reset Journal for Women, you can find those on Amazon. Because again, it's consistently about renewing of the mind. And that prayer journal was something that I was just so, I was so passionate about working on about 30 days about renewing our mindset when it comes to our career and how we approach things, right? One thing I want to tell women, there is a seat at the table for everybody. If you believe that God has given you a vision to excel and to move, you don't have to move nobody out of the way. You don't have to be strategic or savvy. You just have to be walk in faith. You have to be a good person and walk in faith. You don't have to make some strategic or bold move or do something underhanded or undermined. If walk in faith, because God will move people out the way. He will open doors. He will clear a path for you with you just being the person that you are, right? Prayer Works, Career Mindset Reset Journal for Women, and CareerCoachRx.com. That's how you can find me. And just remember, it don't take $1 million. Start where you are and build from there.
This is wisdom, I call. I was reading Psalm 1 this morning, and you just bless me. You bless me. This is when I finished reading Psalm 1 and I decided to do a little research. Like my husband will always say, from time to time, I just get into details, with the word of God. And when I went to Google and I realized that Psalm 1 is what Google called the wisdom book, like a wisdom. And I was like, God, what are you doing this season with me with this word? Because since January, it's just been that word from Solomon to his things, to his father, to everything. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, as you said, we're on the right track for 2024 and we are doing this. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much, Kristy. It was a blessing talking to you from the first day. I just knew within my spirit that you had what our audience are going to be, looking for. And because of the purpose of this summit, there's no better expert than expert who knows what it means to, manage the 2 words of, being up there at the same time, being vulnerable to share where, she's coming from, and now using her experience to help multiple, millions of women, because right now you're just on a runway. Trust me, what you're doing now, you're flying, you're about to take off, and we are so happy to catch you now that you're taking off. Yes, so I'm so happy and want to really especially thank you, and also thank all the audience who have joined us in this event, and also remind you that are watching me right now that you can't afford not to listen to our next guest, because you guys know these ladies are not playing. They are willing to make a shift for you. If I borrow their belief, that's all they're saying. Hey, you still saying, will I something on my way? Nothing on your way. Doc is telling you today, nothing on your way. Right from where you are, let's build and let's go. So that will be it today. Thank you so much. And remember, we're going to have, Doc is going to have the free gift for everyone that is going to actually.
And I'm so sorry, because so listen, on my website, the Career Mindset Transformation course, all of the stuff that we've talked about today, we have compiled all, just a conglomerate of things like how to write your resume, meditations, all kinds of free modules. So you don't have to take the whole course, but there's bits and pieces that might apply to you just to get your mindset renewed, right? Whether it's meditation, just basic things on how to write your resume. And I also encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity to schedule a 15-minute appointment with me, because I'm doing that different. Typically, in the past, I did it as a, hey, is this a client fit? But in 2024, the way that I'm approaching that is, if you have a question about something, I got 15 minutes for you, right? Because I know that if it it might not turn into a client for me, but it could be a blessing for somebody who needs that 15 minutes to say, hey, how do I do this at a job interview? Or I'm not sure about this. Schedule an appointment. I am happy to help you.
That's huge. Guys, let me tell you, that is the best for me. So take advantage, either as a client or somebody who just want to, have a one-on-one. To me, every wisdom that can be dropped on you in this year, you need it. I'm serious. Every word that you can hear from people who have been there and now helping, trust me, I'll take advantage and get it. So powerful, powerful. So I'm so happy that you made it today, and also looking forward to see you. Remember, our summit is going to be March 6, 7, and 8 this year, 2024. And we're just going to be there for the women. So, hey, you love our dog, Kristy. Don't forget, once that email comes to you, to just, stand by so that you can have even a question asked to her on that event. That's okay. Doc, how do I do this? To me, it's going to be a powerful time, and we're looking forward to see everyone just move from where you are right now to where you want to be. Stop dreaming, start believing, and start acting. That's what I'm going to tell you. And with that, we are going to say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.